Look closely at this printed piece of paper, which looks like a standard bank receipt holding a staggering value of 1 crore rupees. Someone bought this paper with a mountain of cash and someone else cashed it in. But if you scan the document for a name, you will find absolutely nothing. There is an alphanumeric code that is completely invisible to the naked eye, which means the buyer and the recipient are ghosts. Now, pause for a second, because this is a democracy and we should be able to see who paid for this. Political funding is supposed to be completely transparent. So where is the name? And why would a democratic government invent a financial instrument designed specifically to hide millions of dollars? I want to find out who is paying for Indian elections, because the scale of the money is breaking records. In 2024, the Indian general election cost an estimated 1.35 lakh crore rupees, which is roughly $16 billion, making it the most expensive election in the global history. So, where does $16 billion actually come from? I start pulling the paperwork, expecting a clear traceable paper trail as I check corporate profit and loss statements and dig into official political disclosures. But I immediately hit a massive impenetrable wall where the trade just stops. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a glitch. Because for years, companies did not have to disclose which party they were funding. Meaning, even companies making zero profit could pump unlimited cash into politics. This wasn't an accident, because this was the system working exactly as designed. This is not just a collection of legal loopholes, but a highly engineered machine. And this is where the system begins to tighten its grip. The first gear of this machine was called the Electoral Bond Scheme, which was introduced as a way to clean up political finance, but actually legalized absolute secrecy. The government fundamentally changed the laws in 2017 to remove the cap on corporate donations, even allowing foreign-owned subsidiaries to route untraceable money directly into India. But this is only the surface of how the mechanism operates. If you were a massive infrastructure corporation, you could quietly buy these bonds from the State Bank of India and physically hand them to a political party in total secret, meaning the flow of money shifts direction entirely out of the public view. As this gear turned for 6 years, the scheme funneled roughly 16,500 crore rupees into the political machine. The money was entirely hidden from you. But hiding the money wasn't the ultimate goal, because the second gear of the machine is about actively buying power. When the Supreme Court finally forced the bank to open the books, a terrifying pattern emerged, revealing that major companies were not just supporting their favorite candidates, they were buying lucrative government contracts and absolute legal protection, with infrastructure giants securing multi-thousand crore government tenders right around the time they bought massive bond packages. What I found next was even worse, as another gear clicks into place to enforce compliance. A federal agency would raid a corporation on money laundering or tax evasion charges. And shortly after the raid, the exact company would suddenly buy massive quantities of electoral bonds. Immediately after the donation, those federal investigations would miraculously stall, proving this wasn't campaign finance. It was a highly efficient state-sanctioned protection racket. But controlling politicians doesn't guarantee a victory. Because controlling politicians isn't enough. The third layer of the machine has to buy your reality. You might think political money just buys billboards and official TV commercials. But the real capital flows entirely underground into massive IT cells and surrogate Facebook pages, spending tens of millions of rupees weekly on untraceable micro ads. And that's where this starts to break down into something deeply personal, because they completely bypass traditional media by directly paying social media influencers. Local creators are handed up to 80,000 rupees for a single Instagram reel, armed with pre-packaged scripts and AI-generated deepfakes to secretly embed political propaganda directly into your everyday entertainment. You think you are watching normal content on your phone, but you are actually trapped inside a paid political ecosystem. Your attention has been purchased without your consent. But even dominating your digital feed doesn't lock in the final result. Which brings me to the final execution layer of the machine on the ground. They have captured the corporate wealth and your digital reality. So now the machine moves to its final, most ruthless layer to secure the actual votes. Untraceable bundles of cash flowing directly down to micro-level operatives who manage the voting behavior of just 30 to 60 voters on a single street. But this is where the system completely flips your expectations, because they do not always pay you to vote for them. Sometimes they pay you to stay home. Candidates actively deploy cash to suppress voter turnout in specific neighborhoods known to favor their opponents, deliberately altering the electoral math without changing a single mind. And this creates the ultimate barrier to entry. But this is where the system reveals its darkest twist. Because you might think this machine only manipulates the voters, but its real power is deciding who is even allowed to become a candidate in the first place. Since this entire machine runs on an unimaginable amount of liquid cash, a competitive parliamentary seat routinely demands between 5 to 10 crore rupees just to play. Meaning, political parties heavily favor the ultra-wealthy. This is exactly why a staggering 93% of winning candidates in the 2024 elections were millionaires, and a significant number of them face serious documented criminal charges. What happens next changes everything you understand about electability, because a major party will actively field a criminal.
Ram Rahim has been granted 259 days of temporary release since 2020, and curiously, majority of the times before elections in Haryana.
Since the criminal records proves that a candidate possesses the independent, illicit network required to fund their own campaign, criminality acts as a reliable proxy for absolute political creditworthiness. This is not just manipulation. This is gatekeeping democracy itself, ensuring an average citizen with good intentions cannot even afford to step foot inside the arena. In early 2024, the Supreme Court unanimously struck down the Electoral Bond Scheme, ruling that unlimited anonymous corporate funding was fundamentally unconstitutional. But removing one specific financial tool does not dismantle the larger entrenched machine. As the deep reliance on shell companies, hawala networks, and black money will only adapt and intensify. So, can you actually buy an Indian election? No. You do not directly buy a billion individual votes, because that is logistically impossible. Instead, you build a comprehensive machine where the outcomes becomes entirely predictable. A democracy where money decides the battlefield doesn't need to decide the vote. This is Akshat, signing off.